Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan, and today I'm going to be discussing the New York Rangers and if they are the NHL's next dynasty. Now, I talked about the New York Rangers a couple of years back when they won the draft lottery in 2019 and ended up selecting Kakko on if they were the NHL's next dynasty, and really besides Colorado, I had them as probably the most likely teams to reach that point. Comparing it to now, it makes it a lot more interesting, that debate, especially how the Rangers core has progressed. But when it comes to this Rangers core of Lafreniere and Kakko and Fox and all these amazing players, do they have what it takes to not just win the Stanley Cup, but to win multiple, and could they become the NHL's next true dynasty? Watch till the end for all of my predictions and all the roster and Rangers talk, and make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're new. 65% of the people that are watching these videos are not subscribed, so hit that subscribe button for more hockey and Rangers content just like this every other day. Now, currently, as I'm recording this, the Rangers are 5th place in the East Division, the most competitive division in the NHL, by the way, with 50 points in 44 games. They right now are 4 points behind the Boston Bruins, and with the Rangers, they are 7-1-2 in their last 10, 3 straight wins, and obviously some of that has been helped by playing the New Jersey Devils a decent bit, but the Rangers are looking like a more mature and a more complete team, at least right now, and personally, I didn't expect the Rangers to make the playoffs. I saw them as, I think, 6th in the division. I still saw them as a decent team, just a team that was going to be on the outside looking in, and going to be another year where you'd be in contention for the lottery, and obviously the 2022 draft and the first overall pick. The Rangers really didn't need any other prospects, or at least high-end ones in my opinion, and this year was kind of just a funky one for me in terms of my expectations going in. But for the Rangers, a lot of the young guys have risen up to great levels. Adam Fox could win the Norris Trophy this year. Shesterkin has been as good as advertised. Kakko defensively and his all-around game has been incredible, and guys like Lafreniere are really finding their game. Guys like Filipino, Keandre Miller, Ryan Lindgren, just to name a few on the team, have risen to fantastic lengths and are really carrying the Rangers to where they are now. On top of that, Artemi Panarin, who is probably the best free agent signing slash player in the last decade or so. He's proving once again that he's not just a top winger in the league, but maybe the top winger in the league. Mika Zibanejad, who started off slow and is now at an amazing level. Just so much is going on for them. Pavel Buchnevich, who's in an incredible point scoring pace. There's so much good going on right now with the New York Rangers, and it's kind of hard to ignore just how successful they've been in a short burst this year. Obviously, the playoffs aren't there quite yet, but for the Rangers, a lot of what you wanted to see this year has shown itself, and I think a lot of that success will carry over to the future and hopefully into the playoffs. Now, I think there's a lot to like for the Rangers, obviously right now, but right now and in the future, I think on forward and defense, they have so many good options on the star and the depth side of things that I think will really help them in terms of really building that core for the future and building it for some playoff success. Now, starting with the forwards, just under 25 on the Rangers team, you got Kakko, Alexis Lafreniere, Vitali, Kravtsov, Filipino, and then going into the players in the system, you got guys like Morgan Barron, you got Brett Berard, Evan Vierling, Laurie Buchnevich, who will be all great NHL, or at least solid NHL contributors, I think, at that level. But the defense also, I would say, is even more promising in a lot of areas. You got Adam Fox, who in his second year in the NHL, arguably has been the best defenseman this year, and in my opinion, has been the best defenseman this year in so many ways. You got Ryan Lindgren, who's been great, Keandre Miller, who's been great for them, and going into this system too, there's so many options to like. Braden Schneider is going to be on this team for in a decent bit, and just going down for the options too. I mean, you got Tarmo Reunanen, who's almost knocking on the door, Matthew Robertson, who's there too. There's so many options the Rangers can unlock in the future, and again, that's just the guys they've already drafted. They likely will have a decent pick this year if they do miss the playoffs, and going into the next few years if they draft well like they have so far, the defense could get quite a few more options too. But really the top 4 is almost locked in right now, and the Rangers are pretty set up, at least in that category, going in the future. I mean, having Adam Fox, I mean, that is probably, besides Cale Makar, the most promising young defenseman in the NHL, and a guy who could not just win one Norris Trophy, but potentially multiple as the #1 D-man on that Rangers blue line. That's pretty scary for other other teams, and pretty great news for the New York Rangers. And of course, who could forget the starter in goal in Igor Shesterkin? I mean, I'm just gonna click on his stats right now because he has been on an amazing level. Got his first shutout just a few days ago, and so far in 25 games played as a .925 save percentage, which again, on that Rangers defense overall, I think is pretty impressive to see. But I think the Rangers are really clicking in a lot of different areas. I think just the team right now, as it stands, has looked super competitive over these past couple of weeks. But again, that future is what we're really looking at of the Rangers, and that projectability going forward. I mean, looking at a team like Colorado, who back in my video 2 years ago, I thought was really the only competition for the Rangers as being the next true dynasty. I think the Avalanche have more of an edge right now compared to the Rangers, but the Rangers might have a case to be more on the horizon, I would say, in the next 5 years, being a team that will be in serious contention every single year. Colorado's more for the now, while the Rangers are more of the future. And you got guys like Alexis Lafreniere, who you have so many promising young players on this team, and Lafreniere isn't even scoring. Kakko isn't even scoring. Imagine when those guys get going truly, this Ranger team is going to be absolutely unstoppable with their youth, and a team that really nobody wants to play against. They're going to be fast, they're going to be fun, and for the most part, they're going to be good. But the question that always keeps coming back to my mind is that if this Rangers team is truly going to get there, who is really going to lead them there in that coaching group? I mean, again, I've talked about David Quinn a lot on this channel, but to give David Quinn some credit, especially for the now, this year, he's done some really amazing things for the team that have bolstered them into a team that can still be competitive this year, which, considering the luck they've had and some just bad consistency over the season, is still pretty impressive in my opinion, and I do think we should give him credit for that. But I'm just contemplating if he's the coach that will lead them to a Stanley Cup, to multiple Stanley Cups. For one, I do think he has grown a lot with the team. Obviously, coming from the collegiate ranks, it's obviously hard to step in right in the NHL and be an amazing coach. And I think in some respects that there was too much that was on his shoulders. But with David Quinn, I think, especially with the now and what we've seen with the team, he has led them in the right direction to win. I don't love some of the decisions he's made, especially when it comes to guys like Lafreniere and guys like Kakko in terms of ice time in some specific instances. But in the general year-wide basis, Kakko's been amazing defensively. There's so much more confidence when it comes to his overall game than last year. And I do think David Quinn has some part of that. Lafreniere is obviously not scoring at an amazing rate, but he's still been a really effective player. And that young line of him, Hedel, and Kakko has been fantastic. There's been other instances of that, but I think David Quinn also had a good last week or so. There was that one game where Kreider was on the first line. I think it was maybe Kravtsov's first or second game or something, where Kravtsov just was obviously on a tear. He was obviously playing like one of the best Rangers forwards that day. And what David Quinn did was he didn't just keep a guy like Kreider, who was invisible in that game, on the first line. He bumped him down to the fourth and raised Vitali Kravtsov up. That, I think, is a sign of things to come, hopefully good things to come. And I do think, again, it's a learning thing for not just those young players, but for also David Quinn, who is a young NHL coach, coaching for the New York Rangers. That's not exactly an easy thing to do, and if he continues that kind of learning base where he's really making the right decisions in real time, I think this is a Rangers team that can not just be strong in terms of the ice, but be strong in terms of the coaching group, which, considering what I thought about David Quinn maybe just a year ago, I'll definitely take that. So in my opinion, the pieces are all in place to potentially win a Stanley Cup. But again, the question of if they're the next NHL dynasty, I think is also one we do have to answer here. Because again, I think they're really the only team that, if we're looking at the most potential Cups won over the next 5 or maybe even 10 years, to me, the only team that can really rival them, especially in these next 5 years, is the Colorado Avalanche. And I think I'll go back to that. Because even teams like Tampa, who obviously won the Cup last year and are still amazing contenders, I don't think they're going to be fantastic in 3 or 4 years. Like, even with Toronto, they're going to have some pretty big casualties due to the cap, and they might not be a team that's on the top of their game forever. And I think when it comes to the Rangers, they're in a really good position in terms of cap. They're in a really good position in terms of players. I mean, again, just looking at the forward group right now, Artemi Panarin is still 29. Mika Zibanejad is still 28. There's some definite time to get those guys the Stanley Cup. Obviously, it's not going to be forever, but Artemi Panarin's in the prime of his career, and I think will still be in the prime of his career for a couple more years, and this Rangers team is really starting to develop right now. And I think with this Rangers team, if you can start to get into the playoffs, maybe find some short success there, I think if you're able to make a second round or something this year, somehow make the playoffs and do something a little bit major, that can lead into some more big things. I don't think the Rangers need to take it fast by any means. I mean, you see again how teams like Tampa took forever to get that core, their first Stanley Cup, but I think this Rangers team in terms of the leadership and in terms of the raw potential is certainly there. But again, I'm going if they're the next major dynasty, I could totally see them win the Stanley Cup, but let's just have them win one Stanley Cup before we call them the next dynasty. That's pretty much what I'm going off here. And that's kind of also the same thing with the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, this is an Avalanche team that's had multiple chances to get to that big prize, Lord Stanley, but they just have not gotten there yet. And if I had to give the nod to the next dynasty in the NHL, I would still say the Colorado Avalanche probably have a better chance of making that happen, especially if they're able to sign McKinnon and Landeskog for the next few years. I think that makes it a lot better for them, as well as Cale Makar coming in. If they're able to keep that core intact, I think they have some amazing options, and with just the godliness that Joe Sakic has been able to pull off recently, I think that team could last for a very long time. But again, I think the Rangers, if I had to make like the next dynasty rankings, the Avalanche would be number 1, but the Rangers would be number 2. But again, I could see them becoming the next dynasty. If the Avalanche continue to fail things, I think the Rangers could step into that role, win a Stanley Cup or 2, and maybe even 3 if this really big core just starts to really gel once again and get to a level where they can consistently make the playoffs. And even though the East is competitive right now, you have teams like the Islanders, teams like the Penguins, teams like the Capitals, who are not going to be the greatest in the next few seasons after that core starts to really get past their prime officially. I think the Rangers have a real opportunity here to win the Stanley Cup and call this core finally Stanley Cup champs. But that'll be it for today, guys. Thanks so much for coming in. If you enjoyed and are new, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that notification bell for more hockey and Rangers content just like this one. Make sure you comment down below all your thoughts. What do you agree and disagree with here? And do you think the Rangers are the next NHL dynasty? If they aren't, which team do you think is? And let me know what you think of this Rangers core as well. All your thoughts down in the comments down below. Definitely appreciate it. Make sure you share this video with your friends. Get it out there, everyone, and click on this card right here to watch all of my actually, you know what? Let's go all my hockey prospects content right on playlist. My name is Nathan. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video or stream. Goodbye.